this is a recording of Hurricane Ian as it passed through Lakeland, Florida. Unlike Fort Myers, you're not going to see any crazy destruction. About the worst thing that happens is the neighbor's mailbox falls over. But I wanted to share this anyway because it is kind of interesting. If you watch the clouds as they're coming in here now, they're going in a southerly direction, and that's very unnormal for this area. Normally, the clouds are, it's west to east, like most things. Sometimes there's a southerly wind that'll push north, but this whole circling bit that the weather is doing is really quite interesting. And you'll notice as the storm gets worse and gets closer to Lakeland, and it did pass just under Lakeland. It ended up going directly over Lake Wales, which is southeast from where Lakeland is. But when it got over there, the wind decidedly changed directions. So for most of the storm, the weather was actually hitting the front of my house, and the front of my house actually faces east. And then about, I want to say, somewhere in the 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. time frame, it just started blasting the north side of my house instead. So, and that's when the storm started getting north of Lakeland, and as it was turning in that counterclockwise direction, it just started slamming that side of the house. And, it was really interesting. And honestly, I have to say that while the wind did get really bad, it came in waves. It wasn't a huge onslaught like most people thought it would be, at least in the Lakeland area. So, and just coming up here in the next few seconds will be the mailbox falling over. And you'll notice that there's still a little bit of traffic in the area. There goes the mailbox. And now that the sun is starting to go down, the storm is actually starting to move into the area, and you'll see that the clouds are moving faster and faster and faster. So it gets really, really interesting. So people are still driving while this storm is still coming, but it's starting to get pretty windy. You can see the palm tree off on the left side of the screen is starting to really bend over a little bit. And at this point, the weather is still coming in a little bit of waves, so it would get really windy and rainy for, somewhere between 10 seconds and 2 minutes, and then it would settle back down a little bit. It never really got below about 20 miles an hour with the wind until literally the next day after the storm. It was about noon before the weather was finally completely gone. And then the next couple days ended up being beautiful weather, thankfully, because I didn't have power for 48 hours. So now we're fully into the night. The red light off on the right-hand side is actually the recording light on my camera. I didn't know this would be an issue, so I apologize. I'll note it for the future to make sure I turn that off in settings. But you can see the weather it's almost going due south now, whereas before it was kind of cycling from east to south. And then, it's going to change direction eventually. So we're about halfway through the event here now. So this would be probably about midnight, maybe 1 a.m., the night of the storm. It really didn't get really bad in the area until about 4 a.m., and then it kind of all hit us at once, and then it started backing off again. Again, you're still seeing occasional vehicles. I don't know why these people were out in this weather. There's just no good reason for it. So you see the weather is going due south now, and it is booking. So the trees are pushing over real hard. And one thing this video really doesn't convey is these trees weren't moving 1 or 2 feet. They were moving 6, 8, 10 feet left, right, forward, back, and as I told a friend, this was the best tree trimming service I've ever had. So my tree looked a heck of a lot healthier after the storm than it did before the storm. So it knocked off a bunch of the Spanish moss and all of the dead growth and stuff like that. But I have a live oak in my yard, which is known for surviving these types of storms, whereas people who had um, pine trees and other types of trees actually suffered worse because those trees just don't survive heavy winds like this. So they ended up breaking off right at the ground, and that's usually it's either dead trees or some kind of a pine tree that falls that actually ends up breaking a lot of the power poles and that sort of thing because these other trees, the live oaks, the hardwood trees in general, they just don't break unless they're really really getting slammed. At least in this area, down in Fort Myers, yeah, it probably cleaned them right off the ground, but I'm not there, thankfully. So as you can see, the weather is now turned. It's going straight south. This is when it started hitting the north side of my house, and then it slowly starts relaxing. You'll see it's starting to slow down just a little bit as the sun starts to come up, and that's as the storm is moving out of the area slowly but surely. So it's just, this is one of those things that you never quite know what a hurricane's going to bring because, originally this was slated to, go directly through Tampa, and it didn't. It went ashore way south of that in Fort Myers, and I imagine some people in Fort Myers thought it was going to miss them, but it didn't. And then when it redirected to Fort Myers, originally it was actually slated to go directly over Lakeland as a dead hit, but it slowly started creeping eastward as time went on, and so it ended up going about 25 miles east of Lakeland. And here we go. See the clouds are starting to break up a little bit as the sun comes up. You'll notice the clouds have changed directions. They're it's still spitting, but at this point it's going and it's following the bottom side of the storm. So it's kind of pulling all of the crazy stuff out as it goes in, and it's starting to blew up, and then the storm is basically over at that point. So as you see, there's really not a whole heck of a lot to see as far as stuff on the ground. Now my neighbor's backyard did have a lot of fallen limbs and leaves and stuff like that, and there was some stuff in the front yard as well, but for the most part we made out very very well with the storm, and I was quite happy with the turn of events. And then thankfully the following couple days afterwards, while I didn't have power, the weather was just beautiful. It was in the 70s, so I opened up all the windows and just enjoyed the weather along with my kitties. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. This is very unlike most of my videos that will be on this channel. Most of my channel is going to be travel and nature, but I thought this was worthy of getting posted up so other people could see how I saw the storm, and you could see what it looked like from Central Florida versus the devastation on the coast. Thanks for watching.